Okay, have you ever wondered what happens when a giant government agency makes a mistake on your bill? Today, we are cracking open a real-life tax document that tells a pretty amazing story about a system admitting it was wrong and then, believe it or not, actually fixing it. So, our story really kicks off with this number. That's over 43 million Indonesian rupiah. Now, just to give you some context, that is a huge tax bill for one person. And this number, well, it's the heart of our entire mystery.
Seriously, just imagine for a second this letter lands on your doorstep. Your first thought is probably pure panic, right? But what if you knew, deep down, it was wrong? And here's the real kicker. What if the government that sent it also figured out it was a mistake?
To figure that out, we've got to look at the official document that solves this whole puzzle. So let's dive into Section 1 and deconstruct this decree.
The key to this entire thing is this piece of paper. It's an official Surat Keputusan Pembatalan, and that basically just means a decree of cancellation from Indonesia's tax authority. You gotta love it when the good news is right there in the title.
So what's actually being canceled here? It's something called a Surat Tagihan Pajak, or STP for short. And you could think of that as a tax collection letter. It's the official notice that says, hey, you owe us money.
And if we zoom in, here are the crucial details. The bill was for a taxpayer named Desi for the tax period of October 2020. Now these specifics, the name, the date, the letter number, they're really important because they're the foundation of this whole case.
Okay, so we've got this massive, incorrect tax bill. Now, normally, you'd expect the taxpayer to have to kick off a long, probably painful appeals process, but that is not what happened here. Let's get into Section 2, the official investigation.
Now check this out, because this is probably the most surprising part of the whole document. See this phrase here, secara jabatan? That's a legal term that basically means the government is acting on its own initiative. In other words, the taxpayer didn't have to file a complaint. The tax office itself realized a mistake was made and they started the process to fix it. That is a really big deal.
And you know, this wasn't just some quick fix with a pen. There was a whole formal process. It looks like their internal data first flagged an error. That kicked off an official investigation, which led to a formal research report, and only then did they issue this decree of cancellation. It shows there are actual systems in place designed to catch these kinds of mistakes.
All right, so we've seen the problem and the process. Now it's time for the payoff. Let's move on to Section 3, from debt to zero.
And here it is, the result, plain and simple. The amount owed goes from over 43 million rupiah all the way down to zero. Boom, just like that. The entire debt is wiped clean. This is literally what it looks like when a huge, complex system works to correct its own error.
So, to make it all official, the document clearly states that the original tax collection letter is formally and legally canceled. As far as the government is concerned, that debt no longer exists. Period.
But wait, it actually gets even better. Take a look at this negative number. It turns out the taxpayer had already paid a portion of that incorrect bill. So now, not only is the debt gone, but the government actually owes the taxpayer a refund. The system didn't just correct the mistake, it's making the person whole again.
So yeah, this is obviously a great ending for one person, but what does a story like this mean for the rest of us? Let's zoom out in our final section and look at what this means for all taxpayers.
You know, one of the cool things that makes this all so trustworthy is the use of modern tech. See that QR code? It's not just for decoration. You can actually scan it and it links you directly to a government website to prove the document is legit. It's a really simple but powerful way to build trust right into the system.
So, what have we learned from this one document? Well, first, that even these massive, complicated systems can have ways to fix themselves. Second, that when mistakes do happen, they can be completely reversed. But I think the most important takeaway is that sometimes the system itself takes the lead in making things right. And that's a pretty powerful sign that fairness and accuracy are still the ultimate goal.
So, this single document gives us this rare glimpse of a system working exactly like it's supposed to get to a fair result. And it leaves us with a pretty big question to think about. How can we make this kind of transparency and self-correction the rule and not the exception in all of our big institutions?